got in the car and I was just looking out the window and I just started crying and the emotions just welled over me. And my wife, who was an amazing wife, was just like, are you okay? Like, did you play a bad game? And like, that's when the tears really started, because I was like, Annie, I played a perfect game. I couldn't have done one thing better. Every step I made, every hand placement, every block, everything was perfect. And we lost by 30 points. And I'm like, I feel like I have no control over this anymore.
Right.
And I feel like we can't win.
Yeah. Welcome to Health is Wealth. I'm Dr. Myron Rolle. Today, we're joined by one of the most respected and durable players in NFL history, Joe Thomas.
Good block by Thomas.
Yeah, watch the left tackle, Joe Thomas, coming right at you right there. Now
A block by Thomas and a touchdown.
Drafted third overall by the Cleveland Browns, first ballot Hall of Famer, Joe Thomas spent 11 seasons with the team, earning 10 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pro honors, and playing over 10,000 consecutive snaps at left tackle, and never missing a game until his final season. But his story goes beyond durability and accolades. It's about discipline, perseverance, and the long-term health of playing through pain. Before he joins us, here's a closer look at Joe Thomas.
My name is Joe Thomas, and I grew up in Brookfield, Wisconsin. I would describe myself as a kid as a wild child, a kid that couldn't be inside, wanted to get dirty, skin my knee, go play any sport I possibly could, go fish and hunt and chase and be just a little Tom Sawyer. Any chance I could get outside, I was gonna be out there. When I was a kid, we used to go back in the backyard and play pickup games of football every day after school, and we'd play against the older kids and get our butts kicked. We'd play against the younger kids and whip their butts. And it was just a great way to get the community together, and it was so much fun just being a kid, being a boy, running around, getting that energy out. I don't think it was until my junior year in college that I realized I had a future in football. And that was when scouts were coming around Wisconsin and watching me in practice and saying, hey, are you gonna come out for the NFL draft after your junior year? Playing through pain really shaped my mindset as a professional, because I understood that I've got a job to do and I'm gonna get that job done no matter what. And I'm not gonna look for excuses along the way. And even if I'm getting banged up or I'm hurting, like, I've got to do that job. And you know what, if I can't do it because I'm injured, I'll find out along the way. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. It was probably towards the end of my NFL career, maybe around year 9 or 10, when I really started thinking about long-term health and wellness. I was a really big yoga practicer early on in my NFL career. And health means being able to be a great servant to my wife, to my kids, to being able to be that protector in the family, to give them the safety and the security and the resources that they need to be able to go out and explore and be the best version of themselves.
Joe, I appreciate you being on Health is Wealth, brother. Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Let's do it. I just want to go to the origins and motivation. You grew up in Wisconsin. You were known as sort of an energetic and adventurous kid who was kind of always on the move. How did that environment shape your toughness and competition?
Yeah, well, I think it was cool because my parents basically just would push me out the door, and then I would run around, get dirty, go play sports with the buddies, get into the woods, build forts. And I think allowing that unstructured play was so good for me, because it allowed me to learn like the boundaries that I can go to that aren't artificially created by like parents or rules or something like that. It was really just me learning kind of when I was taking things too far, because you know, you'd fall down and you hurt your ankle or something, you know, you're climbing up on this or that. And I think it really just teaches you to be accountable to like your surroundings and yourself, and just kind of knowing what little things you can do, but also knowing like, okay, this is a little bit too far. Yeah. We're gonna bring it back a little bit. Yeah. And it really gave me a wild, adventurous, independent spirit that like, if I was gonna have success or failure, it was gonna be about me, and I was gonna be the one that created that for myself. So that ownership and accountability, I think, was huge.
That's awesome. And it's honestly very different than a lot of how parents raise kids today,
Yep.
right? I mean, it's in the house, kids are gaming, playing on headsets, talking to somebody from across the country,
Yep.
you know, and not really getting out and doing those adventurous things that you're talking about. You were at Brookfield Central and then later to Wisconsin. You established yourself as sort of a dominant lineman, of course. What clicked for you early that made you know that football was going to be it for you?
I was really big. I was pretty fast, and I was a good athlete. I actually was more of a basketball player growing up because I was pretty tall and I could move and I had good feet and hands.
Yeah.
But then when I stopped growing at 14 and I realized, okay, I'm probably not going to the NBA at 6'7", but wow, I'm still pretty big and strong and I can move people on the field and pretty much nobody can block me on defense and I can pretty much pancake everybody on offense. I realized, okay, I think there's a chance for me in this sport. I'm not sure what position it's going to be, but I'm definitely a physical guy that likes the hard work, the grittiness, the toughness that it requires to be a great offensive lineman and a great football player.
Do you think that grit, that sort of toughness, did that come from parents? Did that come from the town you grew up in? Like, where did that come from, that ability to, grind it out and get it from the mud and not seek the acclaim or the attention that, some other positions in our sport chase after?
I think a lot of it was how I was raised, right? My parents, when I would come in with a skinned knee, it'd be like, "You'll be okay, wipe it off. We'll put a Band-Aid on it or whatever. You're fine, It was never a panic. Oh my gosh, honey, are you okay? It was like, hey, you'll be fine, And I think that toughness really helped me understand when I was on the football field and, 10 years in, something's hurting, but I haven't missed a play yet. It wasn't ever a question in my mind of am I too hurt to keep going? It was like, I'll be all right. We'll just keep going. Your body eventually will tell you when you can't do it anymore, rather than having to worry about it and let that fester in your mind on every time you get rolled up on or something like that. But I think that humbleness, that selflessness, it kind of comes from partly growing up in the Midwest, but then also having those parents that we're always making sure that you didn't get too big for your britches,
Yeah, man. The parents are keeping you humble.
That's right.
Your feet, Joe, are going to be on this ground.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that. Did the University of Wisconsin put a wall around the state so you couldn't get out? Did we have a shot at Florida State? Did any other schools have a chance at you? Or no?
Yeah, so they definitely did. Barry Alvarez came in the early 90s and basically said, we're going to get every good football player in Wisconsin, and then we're going to recruit other areas that have big, tough, strong guys that we can bring in, we can develop, we can get them to buy into our team culture. And that was Wisconsin, it was Chicago, and then it was out there in New Jersey.
Ron Dane.
Come on, baby. There's been a humongous line of great football players that ended up coming from the East Coast, from the Jersey, Philly, New York area, and then come out and had great careers in Wisconsin because I think it was just a really, really good fit. But Florida State, they never recruited me. And I think it was partly because they realized, one, there's not a lot of great football players in Wisconsin, so we're probably not going to spend a lot of time recruiting. But also, why would we recruit Wisconsin when every Wisconsin kid just goes and plays at Wisconsin?
Yeah, true, for sure. During college, you did tear your ACL in a bowl game, but you came back for your senior season. What did that setback teach you about resilience and toughness and patience also?
Yeah, it was great because it was the first time in my life I'd been injured and missed any length of practice or game time in my entire athletic career. And I did it in the second half, I think, of our bowl game. So I only missed, a couple quarters of play, but then rehabbing and missing all of spring ball, it really gave me an opportunity to kind of focus on the things that I needed to get better at. In the weight room specifically, I wanted to get bigger and stronger. But it also gave me the really good process and purpose, I think, that I took to the NFL of, all right, what do I need to do today? And what is the incremental little progress that I can get better at today without worrying about the big picture? Because when you come back from your ACL, you're not walking for about 6 weeks because I was on crutches because I had to do the microfracture and then they had to sew in my medial meniscus together, so it was non-weight bearing for a while. I don't know if they still do that, but that's what the protocol was then. And so you have to kind of learn to walk, you have to learn to get your balance back. And if you stress about oh my gosh, I need to go play a college football game in 4 months, how can I do that? I can barely walk. I think that can get in your head and it could hinder your rehab process. But for me, it was all right, what's my little goal that I want to achieve today? And then what are the steps I need to do right now to achieve that goal? And it builds confidence, and I think it builds that resiliency. I can do anything as long as I take it one little piece at a time.
I love that. Small steps, small incremental steps of edification towards the ultimate goal. Did you trust your athletic rehab team, the hospital, the doctors who worked with you at Wisconsin to get you back right? I mean, because I say that because in medicine, at least, so when I practice as a pediatric brain surgeon, there is that barrier of like, do I trust you to go inside my head or my spine to do this work for my son or my daughter? And I spend the first like 30 minutes of the visit just trying to gain the trust of the parents to allow me to help their child. How did you take that, being one, self-sufficient, two, a tough, gritty guy who always got it, from the mud? How did you take that process when you were trying to recover and rehab?
Yeah, I think that's so important with your surgeon, your medical staff, and then also your training staff, your rehab team, your PTs, because you can't ever question anything you're doing, or you can't give that thing 100% of your energy and your effort.
That's right.
And so I wanted to know and build that trust with the team doctors and the doctor that did the surgeon, and then my athletic training staff, to know that, hey, my trust is in your hands. I don't have to second guess anything we're doing. And I'm going to then give you 100% of the effort that I have in whatever rehab plan, whatever thing that you have me doing today to get better as part of this larger plan. And so that trust is absolutely everything when you're going through that rehab process, you're going through those surgeries, and you're trying to get back to the guy that you used to be before you got injured.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about draft day. On draft day in 2007, you chose to go fishing with your dad instead of attending the draft. Super humble. That is feet on the ground, 100%. What was your mindset and priorities at that time?
So it's very similar to the priorities that I have right now. It's like, football is an amazing thing. I love the game of football. I love what it's done for me and my family, but my family's the priority first and foremost, right? Like, they have to take a back seat during the football season, but around the draft, it was like, I want to spend this time with my dad, with my family. They were such a part of me getting to where I am right now, getting a chance to be drafted, but also knowing that, hey, once football season rolls around, they have to take a back seat. Yeah. So you got to take every opportunity you can to really just invest in those relationships and spend the time that you can with the people that you love when you have that opportunity. And for me, it was a no-brainer that instead of going and giving Roger Goodell a big hug, I'd rather give my dad a big hug when I got drafted and maybe have a fish on the end of the line.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That was a great story. You were drafted third by the Browns, immediately stepped into a leadership role. How did you prepare yourself mentally for the responsibility of protecting the quarterback on every single snap?
Well, building that brotherhood, that bond with your line mates, your brothers there, but then also your quarterback, your running back, so that when you go out there on that field, you care about them more than you care about yourself. You're taking that bodyguard mentality, that, Secret Service agent, where like, hey, I'm jumping in front of this guy when that bullet is coming because I have to protect his life. I'm sworn to protect him with everything I possibly can do. Yeah. And then I think it just goes into the preparation of, all right, now I know what my goal is, what I need to do, how do I get there? And it's just those little incremental baby steps like we talked about, with making sure that every day I have a process and a little goal that I want to do something better. I want to achieve something in every practice. And I know that at the end of training camp, I'm going to be 30-40% better than I was when I started, because I got better at all these little individual skills along the way.
Yeah, man, definitely. When I got drafted by the Tennessee Titans, I entered the locker room as the DB, and so I'm hanging with the DBs. But one guy who became really close to me, and even now we're done playing, and we're still close to this day, is Michael Roos. And Roos and I are so cool, and big linemen from other part of the country, likes to hunt, wife's into coffee. I mean, just all kind of different sort of cultural things. But like, when we count on the field and when we're in the locker room together, it was so cool to build that bond and that brother. And he shared a lot of the same qualities that you speak about, that your teammates, your line mates, these are your brothers, and the selflessness that he shared.
Yeah, I think the locker room in football is a really unique and special place, not only just with the world, but even in sports, because it's the only sport where you can have a little 160-pound, 6-foot maybe kicker that's from, Central Texas, and his locker's next to a 350-pound nose guard from like inner city Philly, and they can be buddies and they can share stories. Maybe they didn't grow up the same way, maybe they don't have the same culture, but they could have the same values. And a lot of that's around that teamwork, that self-sacrifice, putting others first, that servanthood. And it's so cool because in daily life, you'd never see a lot of the people that are together hanging out in a football locker room, because their lives just, they don't have any way of being intertwined or coming together. But like, when you're out on that football field, you're on that team, you're all working for that common goal, and you get a chance to swap stories and share lives. And it's one of the reasons that Andrew Hawkins, the guy we were talking about before, him and I started a podcast, and he became one of my best friends, you know, like little black receiver from Pennsylvania and a big white farm boy from Wisconsin. They're like best buddies because football brings you together, and you realize like how much you do have in common and how much that you can really share a lot of the same values together and share a lot of great times and good food and good laughter. And I think it's just such a cool way of bringing people together.
Agreed, 100%. When people ask me, like, Dr. Rolle, are you closest to your fellow doctors or to your former teammates? I'm like, it's not even a question. Teammates all day,
That's
all
right.
day, man.
That's right.
But I want to talk about durability and consistency, because you played in over 10,000 consecutive snaps without missing a play, something we might not ever see again. What allowed you to stay that physically and mentally locked in for that long?
I think it was one, obviously you have great genetics, right? Your parents give you these genes and you're able to deal with injuries maybe a little bit easier, recover faster. You don't get injured because I have a 5 times what is the normal human bone density. The DEXA scan, they would do my DEXA scan.
Yeah.
And the first time we did it, the nutritionist is like, I don't know if there was an error, but you were like a 5.0 and like baseline is 1. She's like, the highest athlete bone density we've ever seen is like a 3.
Oh,
and so I'm like,
goodness.
well, I drank a lot of whole milk as a kid growing up in Wisconsin, so maybe that's part of it. But, you know, there's all sorts of things that you do in your life as, you know, a big guy, weightlifting, shot put, track and field, basketball, and you kind of build a resiliency, a durability, playing a lot of sports, which I'm a big believer in for kids, playing a lot of sports.
Nice.
But then
And that's lost today, right?
Totally lost.
Yeah.
You know, parents think that specializing is a good thing because you can build skills faster, but it's actually counterproductive because as a young growing mind, like if you try to do the same thing over and over and over again, you reach that plateau a lot faster, and you need other sports and you need variety to get your brain to be able to get around that roadblock and that plateau and keep growing. And you also, in order to grow, you need to be able to push yourself as hard as you can. Otherwise, it's like in the weight room. If I'm just hitting 225 and it's easy, I might be burning calories, but I'm not growing my muscles because I'm not challenging my body where it says, oh, I need to grow a little bit and get better to be able to handle this extra load. And it's the same thing with the brain. Like, you need to be able to push yourself in your individual sport to continue progressing in those skills that you need. But your mind gets burned out as a young kid if you're just doing one sport.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You build a reputation as an Ironman, playing through multiple injuries, MCL tears, ankle sprains, sometimes without even getting MRIs, which if I was your physician, I would not recommend. But how did you approach pain, recovery, and pushing forward through all those things?
Yeah, I think as a lineman, as a football player, you realize that pain is just part of the game. And one of the most important things for me was finding yoga and meditation and mindfulness early in my NFL career.
That's awesome.
Because it allowed me to be more in touch with all the different parts of my body. In football, you're on the field, you're going pretty much full speed all the time. And I think you lose the mind-body connection a little bit with some stuff. But in yoga, when you're moving slowly through different positions, you're learning how to connect your brain to your glute med when you're in this little position, or, you know, you're able to get into those positions that now in yoga, when you take that to the football field, now you're moving at full speed, but you can feel all those little muscle contractions and the timing that has to happen when you're out there. And consequently, when something's not feeling right and that sequencing or the muscle or the tendon or the ligament or whatever it is not firing the way it should be, your brain is aware of that really quickly. So then you can get into the training room and talk to the trainer and say, hey, I'm not injured yet, but I can feel this is not the way it should be. Let's get some treatment and rehab on this spot. And you can actually go in there and with some intelligence, tell them what you need to work on to be able to get your body back in balance, to go out on the field and be able to play free.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did you take medications for pain? When I have patients who I operate on who are in pain from a spine surgery or whatever, you know, I'm very conscientious about what I prescribe them, what I want them going home to, what I don't want them getting addicted to, and even sometimes, honestly, Joe, they may have family members that want to abuse the medication that I'm prescribing to them. So I'm very careful with that. I got to be careful with that. How did you look at taking medication to alleviate some of those aches and bumps and bruises that you might have received?
Yeah, so one of the hard things about being a football player is the pain and the inflammation you deal with. And so during the season, anti-inflammatories was just part of breakfast. You know, I mean, it's just the way it is. thankfully, when I retired, I really was able to lose a lot of weight and really focus on my diet and the idea that food is medicine and like how that affects the inflammation in your body. And then also trying to get off of those anti-inflammatories so that, your organs are not taking such a beating like they were when you were playing. But going through surgeries and having pain the way that almost every player that plays a long time in the NFL deals with, there are narcotics that are part of the protocol, but I think I was lucky because when I got in the NFL, they were starting to get smarter about the addictive qualities of a lot of those narcotics. And so they started being a lot more tightly controlled among the players, and you really needed to have a good reason, and they had to have a plan behind what you were going to get as far as like the really addictive painkillers was. It wasn't just handing them out to anybody like they did in the 90s or early 2000s where, it makes you feel good now, but maybe this is not the best strategy long term because of all the tremendous bad downhill awful consequences of the addiction side of those medicines.
Absolutely. You're considered one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, obviously. First ballot Hall of Famer. How did you maintain that level of excellence on a team that wasn't always having success on the field?
It was a deliberate focus on what do I need to do right now in this moment? How can I be the best version of myself to help my teammates, and not worrying about the scoreboard or what everybody else was doing, because I know that the way I can help my team the most is by going out and being the best left tackle that I could be. And I didn't need to worry about the defensive call or if they gave up a touchdown or who the quarterback threw or didn't throw to or what the play was. I knew I had my job and I needed to focus on doing that, because any other idea that went into my mind was a distraction from me trying to be the greatest left tackle I could be.
You guys went through a lot of different changes on the Browns, though, from coaches, quarterbacks, front office, long losing seasons. I know you talked about doing your job and doing it well, but with all that transitioning, tell me about your mental health in that aspect.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good through most of my career, but it was in year 10 where I had like a little bit of a breakdown, because as much as you say like I'm just going to only control what I can control and focus on the things that are in front of me, I think as a competitor, to get the most out of yourself in the off season and then as you're prepping for each week, you got to convince yourself you have a chance to win, right? Because I want to think that like if I do my part and then I can encourage my teammates to do their part, we prep the right way, we can win this game. And so you always convince yourself on that Monday when you're getting the game plan, like, all right, yeah, this is the game plan we need. We love this. This is going to be our keys to success. And we went into play the Patriots, who I hated the Patriots, by the way, Brady and Belichick. And we couldn't wait to smash them at home.
Of course.
We got the game plan, and I was just sure that this was the secret sauce that was going to give us that victory that shocked the world. It was the year we won 1-15, so we weren't shocking many people, but I was sure we were going to win. And we went in and we played the game, and we lost like 30-0.
Oh,
we were just.
Oh man!
And I remember coming out of the locker room after the game. My wife was waiting for me, and I had ice on my knees and my elbows like usual, and I was just solemn. And we got in the car, and I was just looking out the window, and I just started crying, and the emotions just welled over me. And my wife, who was an amazing wife, because she was an athlete, she played college sports, she understands, like, hey, if he has a bad game, don't ask him about it, right? He gives him a sack, like, let's not poke the bear, right? Give him some time. We don't have to talk about it now.
Right.
But she finally was just like, are you okay? Like, did you play a bad game? And like, that's when the tears really started, because I was like, Annie, I played a perfect game. I couldn't have done one thing better. Every step I made, every hand placement, every block, everything was perfect. And we lost by 30 points. And I'm like, I feel like I have no control over this anymore.
Right.
And I feel like we can't win. And it was that like realization that I'd kind of been like lying to myself every week to try to get myself as a competitor ready to win. And she said, I think you should talk to somebody. And it was a great encouragement from my most trusted person in my life, my wife. And so the next day I went in and talked with the Browns trainers and said, hey, is it okay if I talk with the team therapist, the psychologist, and had a chance to just a couple sessions with that person. And it made such a difference, just allowing them to hear what I had to say and helping me reflect on it, that it allowed me to come back and bounce back and then be back to my same optimistic self and to be as good of a player as I possibly could be moving forward. But I think it was a great moment for me because it helped me understand, like, sometimes you're not strong enough to just do it yourself and you need to talk to somebody, and that's okay. That's not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength.
I love that. Even being 6'7", you know, and a giant of a man, you still need that. And the key thing in that story was your wife is a true champion. She's a G.
Yep.
The person who knows you best, sees your blind spots. She was able to push you and encourage you. And I love that, man. That's awesome. I got one of my own too, just like that.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
I know it. In 2017, you did share that you were experiencing some early stage memory loss. What went into the decision to speak openly about that, and how did it affect how you view health and your overall career?
Yeah, it's tough to know when you have simple forgetfulness things, if it's part of just genetics, it's part of maybe your life is busy. You know, at the time I had 3 kids, a lot of things going on. I was running a farm back home, and you just have a lot of things going on in your life. And so you wonder if maybe that's just natural and normal for having all those things in your life. And potentially some of it's just the genetic side of it. But I think trying to be aware of it and be mindful of, like, those things that do happen with memory, and if that's affecting you, to try to go and find whatever possible options you would have to be on top of your wealth, your health and your wellness. I think it's important, and I think it's something that I want to be honest and open about, and the people around me to be aware of it. For me, it's about, okay, what is the real situation? Where am I at? Like, are some of the hits that I took playing football affecting my brain? Because it's obviously out there and it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, you know, if that's where we are, who are the people that I can empower around me to help be witnesses of those things, of potential brain problems, injuries, memory loss?
Yeah.
And then who are the people that we can talk to from the medical side of the world that can maybe help along the way to do whatever they know is best? But then also trying to be proactive with other areas of your life, you know, like trying to eat healthy, exercise, do all the things that we know that can help with your brain health, to try to do the best you possibly can for your brain, and to try to mitigate as much as possible some of the beatings and the damage that you get just from playing the game of football.
Definitely. Yeah, the damage from football, as you mentioned, genetics, family history, these are all things. And I think sometimes, bias as a brain surgeon, we kind of look at the brain as sort of like an invisible organ that, it's not like a sprain or a strain or a fracture that you can see, a limp or things like that. But it does manifest itself in these clinical symptoms. Then you really could be doing a disservice to your brain and to your future functionality as a human in this world, not just as an athlete, but just like going to work, enjoying the sunshine, going out, spending time with your kids. So yeah. I love that. Appreciate it. I want to talk about retirement, identity shift, and some wellness. So your Ironman streak ended in 2017 with a torn triceps. What was it like emotionally when you finally had to step away from the game at that point?
It's tough because your identity your whole life has been as an athlete, as a football player. That's how everybody sees you. That's how you see yourself. I was ready to retire just because of the wear and tear and the beatings on my body. And so stepping away from the game was tough because it was ending that part of your life, and it was cutting yourself off from the identity of being a football player anymore.
Yeah.
But I was also cutting myself off from the pain that goes through a Sunday and then a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, trying to recover and get yourself turned around and being ready for the next game. And I think it was very bittersweet, but I was really ready for that next chapter. I was ready to be able to truly put my kids and my wife and my family first from a priority standpoint, and not have any, well, honey, it's training camp. I'm going to see you in another month. Sorry that Jack's got football and he wants me to coach. Like, I got to go to work, right?
Yeah.
And so having that flexibility now as a retired athlete. So I was really ready to take on that role, and it made it a little bit easier finally being done with football. But no matter what you do, no matter the purpose you find after life, you're always going to miss the locker room. You're always going to miss game day. You're always going to miss the brotherhood and the bonds that you have with your teammates, because there won't ever be a situation or a bond that you'll make in your professional life after football that will be as strong as the ones that you make in the locker room or on the football field.
Exactly. I will say, brother, you look fantastic. All right, just like from a physical standpoint. Before you got here, my wife and I were looking on your Instagram, and I was like, look at what he looked like before, and now when you see what he looks like now, and we were like, this is felt nice, ripped, jacked, cut up, man. I love it, man. You lost this weight. Tell me, how that journey happened for you.
Yeah, so I had a bunch of surgeries in my left knee, not a lot of cartilage left, and our team doctor, James Vuz, basically said, there's nothing else that I can take out of that knee right now to make it feel any better. So the next step is kind of like you need a replacement.
Yeah.
So we obviously don't want to do that at 35 years old.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is to lose weight and to eat the right way so that you're not causing more inflammation in those joints.
Because when you do a replacement, you might need to get it replaced another 10 years after that.
Exactly.
That might not be the last one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that was all I needed to hear. Like, okay, I'm going to lose weight. I mean, I'm naturally not a huge guy, and I had to manufacture that by how I ate when I was playing. And so there was a relationship with food and sugar and processed foods because I just needed those calories to be able to keep the size that I was, 310, 320 pounds as a lineman. But knowing that, okay, now I'm retired, I need to focus on my health, my wellness, so that I can be there and be that dad that plays hoops with their kids and wrestles with their kids. And so I really kind of got deep down the rabbit hole of food being medicine and how I'm eating. And I really wanted to change my relationship with food and started bringing in intermittent fasting into my routine. Really cut down and eliminated a lot of the carbs, especially the processed carbs, and started being just intentional about when I sat down at the dinner table about what I was eating, making sure I was focusing on the right whole foods and fueling my body the right way so that I could have that energy that I need to be able to go out and be a great dad, be the best dad I possibly could.
You're widely regarded as one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, yet your career was defined by consistency rather than championships. Tell me how, outside the football space, how do you define success today in anything that you do?
Success for me is if I can come home and my kids give me a hug and they've had a great day. And my wife feels like I've provided for her, whether that means doing the dishes, emptying the dishwasher, or taking the kids to basketball practice, just as the father, as the husband, trying to be that provider so that they know that all their needs are met and that they can then go be the best versions of themselves. Whatever they want to do, that's okay with me, but I want to make sure that success is they don't lack for anything because dad's here to be able to help give them the platform to have that independence to go chase whatever they want to do and have success in that area.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What do you hope young athletes learn from your story about durability, discipline, and long-term health?
So I hope that they learn that if you sacrifice your own little short-term goals for the betterment of the team, the happiness, the joy, the success that you get in life, and then how you feel about your journey and your purpose will be way better than if you chase little short-term goals that are only making your ego and making yourself feel a lot better.
I love it, man. Well, Joe, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've always wanted to meet you. Thankfully, Health is Wealth brought us together for this opportunity. You dropped a lot of gems and pearls with our audience. And obviously your NFL career is one of legends, obviously. But I think your mindset to healing, recovery, being a family man, and what success looks like, and those last couple of questions we were talking about, I think it really speaks to the character that you have. And what we need in this world right now are the character people like yourself. And as long as that message keeps getting out there, man, I think we're going to be okay. So appreciate you, brother.
Hey, I really appreciate it,
This was
man.
fantastic,
This was a lot
man.
of fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, sir.